Hey guys, welcome back to my countdown to Endgame, talking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe leading into Avengers Endgame. Today I'm talking about a movie in which the character is still owned by Sony, but yet they decided to share them with Marvel, and that is Spider-Man and Spider-Man Homecoming, released in 2017. Now, as you all know, Spider-Man was already introduced into Civil War a year prior, and during this time Sony and Disney were deciding on how to share the character. And a few months later, it was decided to make an introductory movie into the MCU for Spider-Man. But what makes Homecoming different from the last two debut movies of Spider-Man, the Sam Raimi version and the Andrew Garfield version, is that their first movies concentrated on his origin story. This one doesn't, and for good reason. We don't need to be told how Spider-Man got his powers. And instead, this movie concentrates on his day-to-day life as Peter Parker going to high school and his alter ego as Spider-Man, just fighting crime in the neighborhood, and along the lines he meets his first villain, the Vulture. The main cast includes Tom Holland as Peter Parker, Spider-Man. You have the main villain, which is Michael Keaton playing the Vulture. Zendaya is playing MJ. Marissa Tomei is playing a younger version of Aunt May as opposed to the older ones that were portrayed. And you have Robert Downey Jr. coming back as Iron Man, Tony Stark, and this is his 7th appearance, I think. And along with this, a little fun fact here that, you know, the program that's inside a Spider-Man suit when he puts it on and someone helping him out, kind of like Jarvis, that's actually Jennifer Connelly's voice. And for those of you who don't know her, she's a well-known actress and she's married to Paul Bettany, who plays Vision in these movies. So it's kind of cool they included her in this MCU along with her husband that was already in it. And she played almost the same role that Paul Bettany did at the beginning of Iron Man, playing the program that's assisting Tony Stark. What I like about this movie is how it stands out as opposed to the rest of the MCU. Yes, all these movies have their own voice, their own territory, so to speak, these worlds that we've been introduced to in each one. Here it's on Earth, but we're being introduced to a world led by a young kid living his life during his high school years. He's the youngest hero we see in the MCU, so this is something new for us in these movies. And with this character, everyone loves Spider-Man so much. He's so lovable ever since he debuted in the 60s, and the reason why is because he's someone that everyone can relate to. He's just living his everyday life as a teenage kid. And here we have him going to high school, living life as normal. He likes a girl in high school. He's living with his aunt whose uncle just died. Things that people can relate to. With Homecoming, I consider it more of a standalone apart from the Infinity Saga. It is within the saga, but it's more of an introductory piece about this character. And with him and Black Panther both being introduced in Civil War, they had these two standalone movies about just them and whatever they're going through before Infinity War came along. And it was just made, I think, just to flesh out their characters a bit more, to get to know them better. And then when we see him in Infinity Wars, they're incorporated into the whole Infinity Saga, and they're more involved with what's going on. But even though this movie's not really connected to Endgame, there are a lot of connections to the rest of the MCU. It does begin as a flashback after the aftermath during the Chitauri attack in the first Avengers movie, where Michael Keaton's character is part of the damage control in order to clean up the wreckage that has been made. And he steals some of the weaponry of the Chitauri in order to incorporate that into his future suit when he does become Vulture. And then you have Tony Stark coming back again, and he's kind of Peter Parker's mentor. And at the beginning of the movie, after that flashback sequence, Peter Parker's kind of filming everything. He thinks he's on a little adventure in Berlin, and Tony Stark is taking him home, and they develop kind of this relationship. It's almost like a father-son type of thing, where what Peter Parker never had. So it's cool to see them have that connection in this movie, and to have another big character such as Iron Man that's been around for 10 years during this time, and to see him in this movie kind of like a side character. He's not the main star, but that's what makes it so cool, because he still feels a part of this world. I'm going to say this now though, and I know a lot of people will agree with me, that after seeing Into the Spider-Verse, I think that's the best Spider-Man movie ever, and it's not part of the MCU, but that's okay. I think that's the best movie. This movie's good though, and I'm glad they took a different route versus repeating the whole origin story of Spider-Man, because that's not necessary. Instead, it told it right. He's a young kid being played by a young kid, and it's just showing his everyday life and how he encounters this entirely new world of being a superhero. As for the post-credits scene, even though it doesn't really connect to the MCU outside of this film, it does have a little bit of foreshadowing of where the Spider-Man movie standalones will go in the future, where you have Vulture, he's now in prison, and they're talking about Spider-Man's identity.
And I heard a rumor. You know who he is?
If I knew who he was, he'd already be dead.
And as we all know, we do have a sequel to Spider-Man coming out after Endgame, Far From Home. And of course, no surprise, everyone's more focused on Endgame at this point. No one's really thinking about Far From Home. But I'm sure once that gets out of the way, everyone will be more in tune and excited for that movie. I know I'm excited for it because we're finally going to have Mysterio introduced to the Spider-Man films. And he's the main villain in this movie as far as we know. And I'm just really excited because he's my favorite villain in the Spider-Man universe. So it'll be cool to see him. It's going to be cool to see Tom Holland having his own movie again and to see how Endgame affects Peter Parker going into this movie. So see the connection between that. I just think Tom Holland is a great choice for Spider-Man. I like what they're doing with his character. I like what they're doing with this film so far, and I like how they're carrying out his character within the rest of the MCU. Tell me what you think about Spider-Man Homecoming in the comments below. If it's a movie you like, if it's in your top 10. I know some people, this is in their top 5. It's not in mine, but it is a good movie. Just share with me your opinions on it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. My next video will be Thor Ragnarok. I'll be excited to talk about that one, so stay tuned. Y'all have a good week. I'll see you at the movies.